Michael Paul. I'm the CEO of Lineagen. I'm also the president of the company, as well as a director of the organization on the board of directors, and one of the founders of Lineagen, which dates back to about 2002 through an initiative with the state of Utah to commercialize Utah's core strengths in human genetic research. So part of my role in the company is obviously managing the organization, but mainly an externally focused function, working closely with our Chief Operating Officer, Galen Moffat, who manages much of the internal issues. I deal much with the board of directors, with investors, with the external communities, including patients, including families, doctors, our customers, and our investors, who are also directors of the organization. Lineagen is an organization whose mission it is to enhance and to accelerate the diagnostic evaluation of complex disorders. And we start with autism first, because we believe truly that there's a better way to diagnose autism and developmental delay. And in many disease conditions, you need a drug to change a person's life. And with autism and developmental delay, you don't need a drug. You just need a better way to have kids evaluated by physicians with the best tools and the best services that the medical organization has to offer. I think with any successful startup company, you need to have passion. And passion is important because startup companies are difficult, they're time consuming. But I think the unique aspect of Lineagen is, in addition to passion, we all have a collective mission, and that's the purpose of the organization. And the purpose of the organization that we truly believe from the top to the bottom is to do good first, and to do good for others, and by doing good for others, we'll do well for our shareholders. We're a very values-based organization. Certain of our values include integrity, and we're not going to sacrifice our integrity as an organization for the sake of expediency. We also understand that every customer we serve is an individual. They are experiencing unique situations in their families that other people don't experience, and we want our services to treat the person as an individual. And we also want those services to have a sound scientific basis, that we believe that all of our services have a sound scientific basis, and that we have a sense of urgency here at Lineagen to provide those services as soon as is practicable. We want to bring the best of medical treatment to patients who currently don't have access to those services, as well as providing better services to those kids who are currently being offered a genetic test. Really, the inception for Lineagen for me really started back in the late 1980s. And although that seems like a long time ago, really the seed of wanting to start a scientifically based business, which I believe is very important in society. Working in Boston in the late 1980s, you saw the advent of the biotechnology industry with the company spinning out of Harvard, spinning out of MIT, and realizing that you need a scientific education. Went on to get a PhD in molecular biology and biochemistry, all with the intent of earning my credentials to start a scientific-based business. And with Lineagen's founder, Steve Prescott, who was an academic researcher and chairman of the, executive director of the Huntsman Cancer Institute at the University of Utah, along with Mark Leppert, who was a co-chair of human genetics at the University of Utah, really came together to identify a unique opportunity to identify novel genetic factors that could play a role in a more comprehensive diagnostic evaluation of kids with autism. And really, when you think about that mission and you think about children, and we all have experiences in our lives to lead us to one direction or another, I think we're all very compassionate individuals, and we care about children, we care about families, and we care about the desperate situation that really can be affected. I think one of Lineagen's mission is to really change the world in the sense of changing for the better how children with autism and developmental delay are diagnosed, because clinical research has shown that kids can be treated effectively as young as 18 months, and yet the current diagnosis for autism is 5.5 to 6 years old. I mean, that's a tragedy. To realize that there is unrecoverable time that's lost, that could be used, by a child, let me rephrase that, could be used to treat a child, to provide them and their families with a better way of life. And has a direct impact on society in terms of reducing the cost that autism and related developmental delay conditions cost society because of the services that are required. And so the earlier the diagnosis, the better the outcomes, the better it is for society, but most importantly, the better it is for that child and the better it is for that family. And again, I think with a group of compassionate individuals with a collective purpose, we can change that for the better.
Why autism?
I think that's a good question. I think autism today is a little bit like cancer used to be, in the sense that we say everybody knew somebody with autism or with cancer. I remember when my daughter was about 18 months old and about 3 years old actually, and a neighbor. I remember back when I remember when my daughter was 3 years old and a neighbor came to visit and they had a child the same age. And their son, it was a boy, and their son would not play with my daughter, but would focus on very repetitive behaviors. And so it struck me at that time, and you saw the desperation in the mom and the dad of they did not know what was going on with their child. And you realize that, I mean, this is just one of many families that struggle with this type of condition. And when you don't have that experience in your family, you feel like you can reach out and help other people. And even though we haven't walked in the shoes of a parent with a child with autism, I believe that gives us the opportunity to really understand through the use of a parent advisory board here at Lineagen to try to understand how we can make our services better and reach out and to help those families. So I think the passion around autism was just really seeing children affected with autism at the same ages of our children who were not affected, and just seeing the real desperate situation that those kids needed help. And I think two things came into play, really. I mean, if you look at Einstein's quote of chance favors a prepared mind, I think that preparation is important to put yourself in a position to take advantage of opportunities. And here in Utah, we have a great opportunity to bring world-leading genetic research to bear on very clinically important and in certain cases very overlooked conditions like autism. So while the impetus to go into autism is more recent, let's say in the last 4 or 5 years, the desire to really help people through a science-based business stems back to the late 1980s. You certainly don't need me to tell you that what you can see on secular television, that the incidence or prevalence of autism in our society is reaching troubling proportions. The CDC, their Centers for Disease Control, used to estimate that autism was about 1 in 1,500 kids. More recently, it was updated to 1 in 500, and then most recently, it was increased to approximately 1 in 110. And why that's troubling, it's even more prevalent in boys. Boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than girls. And so it's estimated that approximately 1 in 58 boys are affected with autism. In addition, a family's chance of having a second child affected with autism or a third child affected with autism after having a first can be 25 to 30 times the risk of the general population. So the incidence is rising, the prevalence is very troubling, so to speak. But in a broader context, even though autism is about 1 in 110 children, or about 1% or 0.9%, developmental delay is about 13% of all kids. And so autism is a form of developmental delay, so our genetic testing and integrated counseling service is really appropriate for kids with general developmental delay as well as autism. And when you look at how many kids, based on the CDC estimates, that's about 533,000 kids per year that should be getting genetic testing for their condition as recommended by the medical organizations. Unfortunately, our statistics indicate that only approximately 50% of children are receiving genetic testing. And so that really opens up the opportunity, if you will, to provide a valuable service to many, many kids, 10 times as many children who should be getting tested who are not currently being tested today. And why that's important from a medical and society perspective, it is a unique opportunity for the company from a marketing perspective to establish a market position, if you will, a first mover advantage with respect to these children who are not currently being tested. Pediatricians are recommended to test for autism through behavioral risk screeners at approximately 18 months of age. However, the current diagnosis is not until 5.5 or 6 years of age. So when you look at really the intended population between 18 months and between 6 years who should be getting tested, that's about 2.4 million kids just within that age range that should be getting genetic testing as recommended or clinically indicated, if you will, by the medical organization. So it's a good opportunity for the company, and it's a great opportunity to really reach kids who are in need. And there's many conditions that are tested prenatally, whether it's cystic fibrosis, whether it's Down syndrome. Obviously, parents have the ability to test prenatally for a particular genetic predisposition, if you will, that might be carried by the parents, by the mom or by the dad. And with respect to autism, while our test is not recommended for the prenatal condition, it's recommended for the postnatal condition, it is really important to inform the parents what their recurrence risk is or what that risk is of having another child affected with the same condition. And I think that really highlights the importance of the genetic factors as it relates to autism. Autism, which is not widely known, while autism does have an environmental component of the disease, autism is primarily genetic in origin. It's estimated that autism is 70 to 80% genetic, whether that's genetic inherited through the parents or whether it happens de novo, that is, genetic variations happen during a child's development, both contribute to the genetic condition. And that's why the genetic counseling at Lineagen is so important, to be able to talk with the parents, to help them understand why this test is important, what it can mean for their family, what it can mean for their family planning, because the more information a family has, a parent has, is just very important with respect to thinking about the future and what the future might hold for their kids. I think my vision for the company is we're a large company in the early years. I think we have a lot of good that we can do. When I look at what we can do over the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to be testing literally tens of thousands of kids. And when you think about this and you think about the ability of our proprietary array that we're launching in partnership with the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the University of Utah, we're going to be able to detect genetic variations in more children that's going to result directly into more clinical management changes in more children. And so when I look at over a 3 to 5 year time frame, and the vision of this company is to literally have changed tens of thousands of lives, one test at a time, to provide that family with more information about what might be affecting, what might be causing a particular condition in a child, and really I would love to meet some of the children who received our test early, just to see how that may have changed their lives. In fact, I was very touched by one of our early patients, a patient from Utah actually, that was diagnosed through our test with a syndrome called Angelman syndrome. And the parents were struggling because that child was in speech therapy and was not making progress. But what we are able to identify was by making that genetic diagnosis of Angelman syndrome, which is a form of developmental delay with autism-like symptoms, children with Angelman syndrome rarely ever develop language capabilities. And so they were able to get that child into a sign language program, so they were able to communicate from the parent to the child and child to the parent in ways that they may not have been able to do for years. And so I think that's really what we're in this for, is to really change lives one at a time, but really to affect tens of thousands of kids for the better. Parents of children with developmental delay, including their physicians who treat them, are really on a diagnostic odyssey. Sometimes it can take years to go down this journey. And we believe at Lineagen that we can partner with them not just providing a test. We don't believe that providing a test is the answer. We need to provide a solution. I mean, this is a complex problem. And the solution that we want to bring to bear is to help accelerate the time it takes from a parent who is initially concerned, sometimes at 7 months of age, to help inform the doctor that there could be something objectively that they should measure in a child in order to accelerate or enhance the diagnostic evaluation of that child, and not just to wait and see. We want to break that wait and see kind of cycle that is part of the problem in why the diagnosis is taking so long. We believe that offering this solution through an integrated genetic test, the best genetic testing services possible, with genetic counseling, personalized reporting, and a behavioral screening that the doctors can use at 18 months and 24 months will all work synergistically to really enhance and accelerate that diagnostic evaluation process. And you can't really say that enough, because with autism and developmental delay, time does matter. And we need to capture that time so that child, whatever that clinical management change is that is appropriate for that child in the doctor's view or in the parent's view, we can help them get that management for that child, whether it's early intensive behavioral intervention for a child who might be diagnosed with autism, or other forms of clinical management changes for kids with developmental delay. Time is of the essence. One of the desperate features about autism and developmental delay is there's no societal, socioeconomic boundaries, no ethnic boundaries. It affects everybody equally. Unfortunately, it affects boys 4 times, as I mentioned, 4 times more frequently than girls. And I think there's a lot of unique aspects. There's a lot of unique elements of Lineagen that makes us a unique business with respect to who we're trying to target in terms of community-based pediatrician, trying to serve children who are currently not being served. But I think there are also many unique elements about Lineagen that make us a unique investment opportunity. And I worked with Dr. Patel at VSpring Capital on the venture side of the table, if you will, and I saw hundreds of companies coming in and pitching their wares. And you realize that certain aspects of Lineagen are very compelling. We've done a lot with a little. We have got on the market, sold a test, we've put a sales force in place, we have hired a full staff, and achieved commercial revenue on less than $11 million in invested equity. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but in the biotechnology industry, $100 million are typically used by companies at our stage. So I think we have a unique profile, a compelling profile for new investors in Lineagen that gives them the opportunity to come in and invest with professional investors such as Sanderling Ventures, VSpring Capital, Prairie Gold Venture Partners, and Mesa Verde Venture Partners, to sit beside them in partnership to help grow this company, again, from a small company to a big company in its early years, and to really provide significant value to shareholders at the same time we're providing value to our customers, which are really threefold. The patients who need the test, the doctors who order the test, and the insurance companies or the payers who pay for our medical services in today's society. So I think when you look around of all the different companies, Lineagen has both unique aspects from its business perspective as well as its investment perspective. There's no company and no investment that is a non-risk investment. But I firmly believe that Lineagen, what we have done here as a team, has de-risked the investment from a number of different reasons. We've de-risked the science by doing scientifically sound and clinically validated research. We de-risked the market by doing our homework up front to identify who is really the pain point in the marketplace. That's the community-based pediatrician, and not the pediatrician that has the waiting list, if you will, at the academic hospitals, but it's the doctors in the community that need these children to get seen sooner. We de-risk it from the sales side. We know that we can sell this product. We know the service responds really well to promotion. And so from an investment perspective, this is really a growth opportunity. This is an opportunity to expand the sales and marketing franchise, ability to get out and put boots on the ground, sell more tests, sell more services, reach more people in a very rapid fashion. So it provides the opportunity for a number of investors to achieve their means, whatever their means might be, in terms of growth capital. We can scale the organization very rapidly with this growth capital round. And again, invite the investors in to participate in a company, an investment opportunity that's been significantly de-risked by all the work and the capital, the $10 million that have gone into the company, de-risking this opportunity. Lineagen has built a great business today, but we really believe that our sustainable competitive advantage, if you will, resides through intellectual property that's been developed in partnership with the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the University of Utah. Namely, we worked exclusively with the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia to in-license a set of markers that are believed to account for up to 15% of all cases of autism. And we believe this will add significant value for the physician as well as for the parents, in that what it's going to give Lineagen the opportunity to do is to be able to identify many more, up to 4 times as many genetic variants that are known to be associated with autism than you could currently get from, let's say, one of Lineagen's competitors today. So we're rapidly moving towards our next generation of our business, which is providing a proprietary assay that will again be integrated with genetic counseling, both pre and post-test genetic counseling, personalized report, all to give the medical community the ability to identify more children who may carry a genetic variation associated with autism or with developmental delay.